Is addiction a choice? Honestly, I think in the beginning, I think it's definitely a choice, right? We're making a choice to pick something up. When I first started, when I was 17, was when I really was able to drink as much as I wanted that particular night. Shortly after, pretty soon, I had no idea what was waiting for me. I did not know alcoholism was waiting for me. I did not know that addiction was waiting for me. I was making a choice to experiment and try a substance. I think that's a choice. See, I think we all start off as a choice, but for whatever reason, whether it's a genetic predisposition, whether or not we have dual diagnosis stuff going on, and we find the therapeutic value in substances and just absolutely love it. And then it slowly but surely or quickly, in my case, it was very quickly, it was 0 to 100 for me. And I think that pretty soon, if you have it in you, whether that's genetically or whether you're dealing with trauma or whether you just are always anxious or whether you battle depression or whether you have ADHD, and you end up going to the stimulants. There's a million reasons why people get started and then continue to use. But I believe that only certain people, there's only so much alcoholics, addicts that are going to be stuck on the stuff and eventually reach a point where you have very little choice. For me, it was the opiates. That was the first thing or first substance, whatever you want to call it, where I realized that I had very little choice in the matter. Well, now then you go, okay, now is that because of the physical hold that those drugs have on you? Is it avoiding withdrawals? Is it the potency of them? But I mean, you can have someone who is dealing with alcohol and has just as much a hold. I just don't think people lose jobs, crash cars, go to jail or prison, lose their kids, have all these legal issues, get themselves in debt, pretty much kill themselves physically, get cirrhosis, get liver failure, get jaundice. I just don't think that happens by choice. I think that at some point, somewhere along the line, you eventually lose control in addiction. Now, I think what I notice, what separates, let's say, me from some of my old friends that were using the same opiates that were able to stop, I think there's another component to addiction, at least in my experience, what I found. And that's this kind of internal drive that was always trying to bring me back to it. See, because you could have a person who doesn't identify as an addict, doesn't identify as an alcoholic, and let's say they get high with me for 60 days straight, and they're doing it all day, every day. We're using the same amounts, and they become physically dependent on it, right? And I'm using it the same time they do, the same amount, same potency, same substance, everything. And then we both go to rehab. Now the friend, they may not be an alcoholic and addict. They may go into detox, spend a week, 2 weeks in detox, and never have to think about using the stuff again. With me, that was not the case. And I think that's a component of addiction that really separates those that are using for fun or by choice and those that really get stuck on it. That's what separates the addicts and alcoholics from just the hard drinkers. How do you feel when you put the stuff down? How do you feel? Because you're as sober as you're going to get. You just went to detox. Let's say you're walking out of detox with 2 weeks clean and sober. That's as sober physically as you are ever going to get. But see, for someone like me, with the hardest part of addiction, at least in my opinion, is kind of the mental game that happens after that. Once I've got everything out of my system, I seem to have this thinking, this mind, this outlook on life, this attitude, this perspective that is always trying to bring me back to the drink or the drug. always trying to bring me back. And it also kind of tells me that after a period of sobriety, I overreacted. I can't tell you how many times I was in the thick of it in addiction, and I'm hurting physically, and I'm tired, and I'm worn down, and I'm just stressed, and I'm depressed, and I give a rehab, a treatment center a call. Hey, what's up, guys? What insurance do you take? Okay, if you don't take insurance, how much is it? Is this a county-funded program? This and that, whatever the case was. And I'd go over all the questions they'd ask, what are you using? How often are you using? How long have you been using? Stuff like that. I'll go over all those questions. And while I'm on the phone, I have every intention in the world of getting sober. And they say, all right, call me up tomorrow and we'll let you know if there's a bed open. By the next day, I've already overreacted. I don't really need that help. I don't really need that. There's a component of it to where I reach out for help, but in a quick period of time, I'm just over it. There's also another component to it where if I can stay sober for a period of time, let's say a week, if I can stay sober for a week and prove to myself that I could stay sober for a week, I don't think I have a problem anymore. I somehow convince myself that by staying sober for a short period of time, that excuses the last couple of years of misery that I've had in addiction. I don't think that people that have a choice to get high or not, I don't think they experience all of that. I used to attribute all of the hardships in addiction to just getting high and drinking. I always thought that if I could just put that stuff down, my life will be great. Everything, I just put all the blame on the drugs. Come to find out, once I got them out of my system, I needed a lot more work than that. That's where recovery comes in. Now, I don't know what your recovery program is going to look like. It's different for everyone. I don't know what you're going to do to get sober. I don't believe that we all take the same path. I think we have a very different experiences, very different reasons why we use, very different things that go on in addiction, and a different path of recovery. Now, sometimes it's the same, but I don't believe it is for everyone. But if anyone here is watching, if you've clicked on this because you've battled addiction, you're sober now, maybe it was just something that popped up on your feed, thank you for checking it out. I like to go on here and kind of just spark conversations and reach out to those that may be suffering, or maybe just those that are now sober. I'd love to hear from you guys, see some of your sobriety dates in the comments. I think that we're always better together. Whichever road you're taking, I think a lot of us in recovery, we take different roads, but we've got the same destination, right? And that's figuring out a way to not have to get high all day long. I think there's different avenues to achieve it, but I think a lot of it's the same. We go through a lot of the same stuff. That's another thing too that I just kind of thought about as well, and I think this is kind of can be attributed, at least for me, to something that I battle because I deal with addiction, is this idea that I'm so unique. Like, you could put me in a room of recovery with a bunch of people that are doing the same things to stay sober each day. And I'll look over and I'll listen to them and I'll relate like crazy. Some of them will be pretty much telling my exact same story, maybe different situations, but at least the way that I felt. And I have this natural inclination, or just, I don't know what it is, but I don't believe it's going to work for me. It's like, yeah, that's great. I'm glad you guys have found a way to turn your life around and change. But for whatever reason, that is not going to work for me. And so I don't even try. See, I fail before I even start to put in an effort. And what I found towards the end is I realized, as I was finally willing to put some work in to stay sober, I realized eventually that recovery for me had to be a priority. It absolutely had to be a priority. Because for a long time, it was just something I was doing for a little bit, and once things got better, that was it. I put it to the side. And sure enough, I found that anything I put before recovery, typically I end up losing anyway. So when I was finally ready to start doing some work to get somewhat comfortable sober, somewhat content sober, I realized that I didn't have all the answers, man. I've been sober 5 years now. I don't even have close to all the answers. It's a constant journey of kind of figuring stuff out, and you get your life all balanced and things are going pretty smooth. And next thing you know, you maybe you stop doing some work in this area. Maybe you cut out a little bit of exercise. Maybe you stop going to your counselor. Maybe you stop doing your recovery meetings. Maybe you stop calling a mentor or a sponsor or another friend that's sober. And you just kind of get a little bit miserable for a little bit until you finally just can't take it anymore. And then you start to do a little bit of more work to stay sober. And then things are going well for a while and you start slacking in this area. Or maybe you make a bad decision, you get in a bad relationship or something, you get super stressed out, all of a sudden your depression's back and you're thinking, man, what the hell's going on? I got a couple of years sober and I'm not feeling very balanced. It's like, that's what I've realized throughout this whole process. We're always growing, we're always learning, we're always failing at different parts of the journey. But it's kind of just how we bounce back from that. And I feel that over time we start to have a good, I call it the emotional thermometer, where you start to realize kind of your own red flags. And mine may be different than yours, but you start kind of realizing, okay, I'm getting wound tight a little bit. Things are starting to bother me. I'm starting to get pissed off. I'm starting to just be on edge. And you start to realize, okay, I need to do something. Right? I felt this feeling before. Normally it doesn't end well. I normally make some bad decisions, some rushed decisions. I start reacting to life rather than taking a few seconds to kind of proceed with each move. And then you correct it. And that's what I found. It's this constant pursuit of just growing and kind of learning and making mistakes and just figuring out how to navigate life sober. Thanks, guys, for checking this out. If you are in recovery, I would love to see your sobriety date. Throw a comment out there. Thanks for checking out the channel. If you get some time, check out one of the podcast episodes. Appreciate you guys. Good luck in your sobriety, man.